Hi, everyone. I think we'll just wait 1 or 2 minutes for everyone to join, and then we will get started. Okay, so welcome everyone to the second public lecture of the TUMI Summer School. I'm very happy to see that a lot of you have already joined. Thanks for joining from all over the world today. And today's focus is on communicating public transport. And for those of you who joined today's workshop, you have already had the chance to dive a bit deeper into the Lviv communication strategies and the situation in the city. And now we're traveling a bit further to Fortaleza in Brazil. And we have a great lecture ahead of us on communication strategies to promote sustainable mobility projects, the case of Fortaleza. So Mariana Gomes will present this to us today. And we have a short agenda just to give you an overview of what you can expect from today. I will first present some housekeeping rules, then I will shortly introduce our speaker, and then we will dive into the lecture. Afterwards, you will have enough time for question and answers. So just for the housekeeping, we would kindly ask you to stay muted throughout the lecture to avoid any noises and any irritations. If you have any questions, you can ask them anytime, either in the chat pane or in the questions pane, and we will monitor them and answer them at the end of the lecture. The session will also be recorded and you will find it on YouTube afterwards. So in case you have to drop out early or if you want to share it with colleagues or friends, you can do that afterwards once it's up on the channel. So, yeah, this is Mariana Gomes, who will be today's presenter. She's an architect and urban planner at the Municipality of Fortaleza. And yeah, thanks, Mariana, for holding today's lecture. And I think I will hand over the control to you, and you can start with your presentation.
Hello, everyone. I'm sharing my screen here. As Leonie said, I'm Mariana Gomes. I'm an architect and urban planner from Fortaleza. I was in Leipzig last year for the TUMI Summer School, and it was a great opportunity and a lot of learning and exchange of experiences, and I'm glad to be here now, and we're very thankful for the invite to come and participate and present the case of Fortaleza in terms of communicating public transport. This is a little picture of Fortaleza. We are the 5th largest city in Brazil, and it's a developing country with a lot of diversity in society. And we are 2.6 million people population in northeast of Brazil. We are the most dense city in Brazil, and we have a car fleet of 1.1 million vehicles, and it's growing. And also, when we mean vehicles, we're talking about motorbikes, which is a great issue here that we're dealing with. We have over 4,000 kilometers of road network, and CO2 emissions, 61% of them is represented by the transportation sector. In terms of regulation, our national urban mobility policy is from 2012. It brought great change nationally in a way of like orienting cities to develop their own sustainable mobility policies. And locally, we are the local administration. Actually, we are going through elections next November for local government. But right now, the current administration has been running since 2013. PITE is where I work. It's a mobility innovation department. It exists in the city since 2014, and we've been part of the Bloomberg Initiative for Global Road Safety since 2015. We have been developing many projects related to sustainable urban mobility in the past years, since 2013, focus on cyclists. We have expanded our cycling infrastructure. We have done a lot of also pedestrians. We've done many interventions focused on pedestrians, on kids, on the elderly, and also on public transport. And with that, with the result of all these interventions can be noted on our modal division. Nowadays, we have 65% of the trips that are done within the city done by sustainable modes, which means that means 32% of the trips in the city are made by on foot, or in 28% by public transportation, following cars, motorbike, and bicycle. And in terms of so there's like communication has been of very importance for the promotion of sustainable mobility in Fortaleza. And we could talk about all the aspects in all these projects, but we're going to focus today on public transport. So, but first I'm going to talk about communication in general, like how has been the communication towards bringing the theme of sustainable mobility and road safety in the city, like how to bring it to the media, how to make people talk about it. And then I'm going to focus on how it was done towards the implementation of public transport projects and the strategies that were carried out. Talking about communication itself, like the main challenge in general is like exactly as I said, like how to bring this sustainable mobility and road safety to the agenda of the local media, or for them to generate news and information about it, and how to make society and key actors understand and engage with the theme. So explaining a bit of the chain here, we have this spokesperson who is kind of like the source of the information. It might be someone from the municipality, from the city hall, might be someone from the civil society or from some organization that talks about this topic. And they have some information which they share with a reporter. The reporter covers the news and then moves forward to an editor who edits the news, and then the news itself that goes to the whole society, like to the whole city. And it's important like to understand this, that in general, like everybody's just trying to get the news, cover it, broadcast it, and then go home to their families. So one thing we've been in mind is always to try to make it as easy as possible for the news to get to either this channel, like the communication network, but the people themselves. And how we do that? We do through media campaigns, like massive media campaigns, which means TV, radios, outdoors, also social media, of course, especially nowadays in times of COVID, it's been very important. But we've done also throughout the years a lot of training. We've trained the spokespersons of the municipality, and the staff, and also the journalists themselves, like to get them to really know how to target the news, and how to put it out, how to broadcast the news. Also, we've done targeted events such as flash mobs and pop-up interventions. And one of the main things is like the generation of data and facts that will provide, that will make the news happen. And this is one example I would like to share, which is a advertisement that was made.
Vamos, Júlia, tô esperando. Bora, filho, você já tá atrasando pra escola. Num atropelamento a 60 km por hora, a chance de sobrevivência é de apenas 2%. Respeite os limites de velocidade.
And so that was one type of advertisement that was made, that was broadcasted on the local TV. And it was sponsored by the City Hall, and we also did outdoors, and also advertisement on bus stops. And with one thing that's important to bring to the topic of communication is how important it is, the investment of the local government as well on this. We started in 2017, and something around $100,000 was spent on this campaign, again, promoting the use of helmets. And throughout the years, it has evolved. Last year, we spent almost $500,000 on the campaign, on this campaign that you just saw. And that means that it's became, like, throughout time, and with all this process of making this thing important, it became important within the municipality. And in terms of training, I think that's something that we ourselves, like as technical as specialists in the topic, we need to train ourselves as well on how we communicate projects. For instance, if you're going to do intervention on a street, you don't say you're going to close the streets for cars. It's better that you say you're opening street for people, for pedestrians, for cyclists, for kids. And also bringing this, that road crashes, road fatalities is a public health issue. It's not only a traffic issue, but also impacts the lives of people. And also always prioritizing the most vulnerable, saying you're doing this project for people who are at most risks when outside the roads, outside the streets. So this is an image of a journalist training. We brought technicians, like people, specialists from the municipality, from other organizations, to talk to the journalists in a kind of like a workshop where they could exchange experience and learn together. And in regards to target events, we've done car blitz, like with the theme of wearing helmets and wearing seatbelts. We've done flash mobs. Funny fact, this picture on the top right, it was my first day at work, and I went to do a flash mob on the remembrance of the victims of road crashes. And also we remember important days related to urban mobility. We always do some kind of intervention to bring to the media to make people remember. And entering the data and facts realm, there are many ways of, like, it's very important to have data and facts to feed the information. And we've worked a lot in the past years on improving the quality of our data. And my point here in communication is there is many ways of communicating this. And this is the topic of fatalities, death related to road crashes. So you can see here a graphic of the historical series of vital victims from 2002 to 2019. And ever since we started developing this project, we have managed to decrease the number of fatalities. This is the main thing that we work for, and making people understand that we're saving lives. This is one way of showing it, and we've been reducing throughout the years. This last year was the 5th in a row reduction we've succeeded on having. But you could also bring this on, like, fit this on a index that makes people understand, like this deaths per 100K inhabitants. It's worldwide known. So you could say that we've reduced by half this index, which is also linked to a goal from the World Health Organization to reduce by 50% the number of fatalities in cities in the world by 2020. We've managed to do that before. And this is another way of bringing this information, this data. But you could also touch people's hearts, like with saying, like giving a number that they understand more. All this work, all this projects, it means that we saved almost 600 lives. 578 lives were saved in the past years because of the projects that were implemented. And also linking them to some things they might relate. I got this information, for instance, that 1.35 million people die every year in road crashes. That will mean the double of the whole population of Lviv. And another information that might not be known by people in the world is like that road traffic injuries are leading cause of deaths for children and young adults. Which with that, like we've been trying to implement a lot of projects focus on children. We use that to sensibilize people and make them understand how important it is to guarantee the safety of children. We also develop annual reports based on those data, like they look good, they have spot on information, and they are accessible through websites that people can access and have this information. And when I mentioned like making the life easier to the press, it's like whenever we have some information we think it's worth sharing with the news and the population, we write ourselves the press releases, like we write the facts ourselves and send to the local media. So they already have something to start on, and from that they might book a interview or something like that. But we make it easier for people to access. And also hold press conferences. Whenever the mayor is present, you can guarantee the press will be there. And that makes things easier also to explain, to control the narrative, to exactly bring the information you want to bring to the people. And as a result of this general communication strategies we've been trying to develop here to implement, to bring the sustainable mobility and the road safety themes to the agenda, we've noticed, like we've run some assessment surveys, and we've noticed that the population want to know about this. This is something they have to handle and deal with on their daily basis. So this is the information they want to know. And nowadays, local media requests from us data and facts. They come to us before we have to go to them, but now we could see they come to us asking for more information, trying to know what happens. And this helps in strengthen the importance of having data and database projects, because they want to know why you're doing this. And if you have the data and if you share the data, it makes it even better, like it communicates better, people understand better. And it's not a result, but this is it's kind of like a consequence. We have this outreach destination research. We're doing we're finishing the first one. The last one was 20 years ago, and this will provide us a lot more with data. So this is fantastic. We're very excited about this because we're doing surveys. We've done on over 23,000 houses in the metropolitan area and 18,000 houses within Fortaleza. And these will provide a lot of data and facts. And now on the topic of public transport, as I mentioned before, 28% of the trips done daily are made by public transport. Of course, during times of COVID, we've experienced a decrease, but we are recovering from the demand. And in Fortaleza, it's around something like over 1 million passengers a day. They circulate on our bus terminals and on our lines. There are 7 bus terminals in the city and over 320 lines, bus lines. And today, in terms of project implementation, I'm going to talk about 4. The dedicated bus lanes that we've managed to implement in the city, prioritizing public transports, the single fare ticket, which is a smart card that gives unlimited transfers within 2 hours for free. So like the people pay 1 fare and they can move around the city for free. And we have a Meu Ônibus app, which is a transportation app of the city. We have that, which has over 1 million downloads today. And also the infrastructure improvements, the BRTs and the refurbishment of bus terminals, and which help us reorganize and optimize the bus lines. And what I'm going to bring about each one is how the project was implemented, like what were how they came up in the city, the technical strategies to implement it, the project's communication strategies and to implement this project, and the challenges and opportunities that were faced that arise during the implementation or after the implementation of the projects, and how they adapt or contributed to fight COVID. So in terms of dedicated bus lane, nowadays we have 115.6 kilometers of dedicated bus lanes, which they guarantee faster travel and more easy access to jobs and education and leisure through public transport, which it means, not basically, because there's a lot of things that come along, but it's basically dedicating 1 lane of a road to public transport. So this is how we were when we started. We had 3.3 kilometers of dedicated bus lanes, and nowadays we have 115, which means a bit over 10% of the lanes of the roads we use for public transport. We use almost around 1,000 kilometers of our network with public transports. And so, as I said previously, it was 3.3 kilometers of preferred bus lanes there was the signing, but there was no kind of regulation that could find people or orient people better on giving the preference to bus lanes. And what changed was a regulation that we managed to change the law to be able now to fine drivers who are using inappropriately the dedicated bus lane. Car drivers are allowed to drive over 100 meters, like to access a road or something like that. But further than that, we have electronic monitoring that will fine them. And for the project's implementation, we had this golden rule. This is how we started. We got all the roads, we had 3 or 4 lanes, and we turned one of them into dedicated bus lane. There was a lot of studies until nowadays. As we move forward, we question ourselves for the need to study traffic flow so much, because that's a very car-oriented policy, but we still do it. So we do study and do a lot of simulations of traffic flow before implemented. But to be fair, this was like the smoother way of inserting dedicated bus lanes. You had a road with 3 or 4 lanes, one will be for buses. And later on, like, we became bolder, and we have roads nowadays, there are just 2 lanes, and we have one with dedicated bus lanes, and those ones come with a lot of study regarding the flow of the cars. We use like parallel roads to transfer traffic, but the main thing is we are prioritizing public transport. To begin with, like when we started implementing this dedicated bus lanes, we started like with 30 days of advertising before the intervention and explaining how it works. So it was all our spokespersons on the medias, we're developing press releases, we're printing out folders and distributing to people, like local communities, so they could understand how the traffic flow was going to work and what it meant. And also we have all our dedicated bus lanes are monitored by video. But at the beginning, we wouldn't find people, we would send them a notice just saying, so hey, don't go on that lane, it's dedicated to bus, and eventually you'll be fine if you continue. And we could notice at the beginning there was a peak of fines after like all this educational fining, but there was like when it came to in practice, like finding, there was a peak of that. But I could say for nowadays, people really got used to the dedicated bus lanes, and sometimes we question the need to monitor like with videos, although we do use videos for all kinds of monitoring as well. And also that happened, like we gave many interviews, elaborated releases, folders for the local community, as I said, and we were demonstrating the results. I think the main thing, like we could say, was the gain of operational time, and explaining to people like this is the reduction. On average there was a 38% reduction, but we experienced even more in some roads. These are some roads in the city from before and after, so we measure the time it'll take for the buses to get, and we make sure to make people understand that they should be prioritized, not cars, because their buses basically carry more people than cars, of course. And that, to our surprise, there wasn't much resistance from the community. Of course, there were the drivers, car drivers were against it, but we had this strong convincing strategy that we were prioritizing public transport, and we already had a lot of the population traveling by bus. And so that was a challenge that was overcome through communication. And the implementation of cycling infrastructure was a big opportunity because we had to redesign the signage of the road, and we took the opportunity to also implement cycling infrastructures with signing as well. So that was very good, but we still have this challenge of expanding the dedicated bus lanes. We've managed to target like those 3 and 4 lane roads. We're doing some other roads, but as I said, there's only 10% of the roads with dedicated bus lanes. And as we move forward, we feel like we need to become bolder with that. And in times of COVID, that means that we reduce the time travel of people, like the travel time of people on their way to work or to whatever chores they're running that day. So it's less time exposed, I would say. In terms of the single fare ticket, so this is a smart card. It's called Bilhete Único. It's a 2-hour free commute anywhere ticket. So this came with a big social impact, because like many developing cities in the world, most of our low income population, they live on the outskirts, and with the 2-hour commute time they have for free, they don't have to pay for 2 tickets, because usually it'll take them two buses to reach their destination. So, and before it was only possible at the bus terminals. We have a trunk feeder system, which I'll explain a bit better later, but they will only be able to transfer before in commute in bus terminals, or on specific bus lanes, which were very complicated for people to understand. And with this card, we started using facial biometrics and also getting some data from the population, because before we didn't know much about our public transport users. Nowadays, we have a lot more information. And we started with that, and at the beginning it was around 10% of the population that are using the smart card. But last year we saw this card, having this smart card as an opportunity to do a second phase. Here in Brazil, I don't know how it works in your cities, but in Brazil, in a bus, you have two people working. You have the driver and you have the collector. And having these two people, having the collector means 15% of the ticket fare that people pay is because of this working force. So we started merging the buses to smart cards only, and getting the collectors out of the buses. I'll talk about getting them out in a bit more. But what happened was, with this transition, we started with 10% of the users using the smart cards in 2015 or 13, and now we have almost 100% of the users using smart card. And how we did that? We did that by advertising the benefits of the time gain at the beginning of the project itself, and the social impact of the project. So that will mean, like, if a person with a smart card that could commute anywhere, it would mean they wouldn't have to do negative trips, like going to a bus terminal to then go to their destination. So they could work out the best route for their work and commute anywhere. And we also did a lot of interviews and press releases to explain it better. And for phase 2, because there was a big challenge and there was some resistance of the population to use the smart card only, the strategy was, which I believe it was very clever, was to double the fleet. So you can see here, like, if you have a bus route with 25 buses running a day, what was done throughout 6 months was that we added more buses on that line with smart cards exclusively. So if we have these 25 lines, the people can go in and use the smart card or pay with money, or there are only these 2 options. And they could do either on their regular buses. On the ones we included, they only accept smart cards. So people couldn't complain much, because it didn't change their time waiting for a bus. It actually improved. And so there will be more frequent buses coming, but some of them will only take smart cards. And with that, people managed to migrate to smart cards. And in terms of the collectors, they were re-employed, but doing different activities within the companies, the public transport companies that were offering the service. And also, we've increased the top-up points, because before you can only top up your smart card on bus terminals or certain locations, but now you could do it over 3,000 places around the city, including on your bus app or your bank app as well. And also, every now and then, those 5% of that haven't engaged with the project, they can still buy temporary smart cards, but not with all the same benefits of the Bilhete Único smart card. They can buy it directly with the driver. And as challenge, as we said, like, actually as an opportunity, because we optimized the workforce, which meant 15% of the fare. We managed to maintain the fare price this last year, despite the rise of the price of some of the insums like fuel and things like that. We managed to maintain the fare price, and we managed to remove the money from the buses. That was very important in many ways, because, again, like a developing country, an socially unequal country, we have problems regards to public safety. And having money in a bus, it means it makes it more dangerous, like for robberies and things like that. So taking the money out makes public transport safer as well. And people, in some people too, that's a cultural thing. People still travel to bus terminals to commute. also because of the culture, but also because of safety issues. And now, as an opportunity, we use all this facial biometrics to identify the users and generate data. And in times of COVID, I think it's very obvious the impact and the importance of having the smart card. We avoid a lot of human interaction inside the bus because the users won't have to be dealing with the collector; they'll be straight dealing with the machine. And we have used data to do some contact tracing to understand, to link our public transport users with the health data, and to understand better where they were and what transport they're using to map better the COVID cases in the city. Now talking about the app Meu Ônibus. This is shorter because there wasn't much resistance towards it. So it was something that the city wanted to develop a long time, but it did happen when an innovation group came together. This is a good suggestion like cities could take about getting actors from many different fields, working with transport, urban mobility, and create an innovation group to think of this. So it came this issue of having a mobility app, and it started by the ideas of this innovation group. And at the beginning, it would give the forecast of the arrival of the time of the bus at the bus stop based on the location of the GPS of the bus, which will be sent every 20 seconds. So if a bus there's a GPS sending the information of the bus every 20 seconds, and the app, the algorithm would calculate the time to get to the bus stop. Before that, you only had those of like you get to a bus stop and has number this bus number this fast, and so you kind of give like some perspective to the bus to the public transport users. And we have over 1 million downloads being done. And in terms of communication, it was very good accepted. It was like long time expected this to exist in the city. So when it came, people really use it. And having this app was a great opportunity to add new functionalities. We have we've managed to add a button to report sexual harassment cases. And the buses have cameras, and when a person reports a sexual harassment case, which is a crime in Brazil, the videos from the cameras are sent to the police. And also now with the cards, with the smart cards, people are able to top up their cards with using the app, and also to include complaints and suggestions to the city, to the public transport companies. And nowadays, it's in times of COVID, people can plan better their trips to the bus stop to get the bus, because they know around what time will their buses come. And also it's a channel of communication with the population. Finally, in terms of infrastructure improvements, we have a trunk feeder system, as I said, with 7 closed bus terminals and 2 open bus terminals. I did this little sketch just to illustrate. I don't know, maybe everybody knows this, but I work with urban mobility, but at the beginning it was new to me. So you have like this interest points of where people are, and a trunk feeder is like they connect small lines to a certain point and lead them, which are led to another point. Usually these concentration points are bus terminals, and the bus corridors, these ones that go in the middle, are what we hope to have are BRTs, but when we can't have them, we try to implement dedicated bus lanes. So with the BRTs, we have some in Fortaleza. We've managed, and also with this priority, with these improvements we've done, we've refurbished bus terminals. We've managed to reorganize some bus lines. Again, I said we have 320 bus lines, and with these corridors, which are all going kind of to the same place. So this was an opportunity to reorganize some of these bus lines, and the funds to do so with BRTs came from development banks, but the dedicated bus lanes we did with our own resources. And the communication strategies was also about this prioritization of the public transport, and along with the renovation. So as we were redesigning, rethinking the bus lines, we were renovating all the infrastructure. So we were implementing the BRTs, we were refurbishing bus terminals, we were replacing the bus fleet with Wi-Fi, and which nowadays has 100% of the buses with Wi-Fi, and we've been air conditioning the buses. We have 35%. That's very important in Fortaleza because we are a year-long warm city. And also, as a communication strategy, our technical team will go to local communities to explain to them how the operational system will work and how the reorganization of the bus lines will work. And this is a picture of our BRT, another one. So as a challenge, and we still face that, it's the optimization of bus lines. There's a lot of resistance to this change. It's very much cultural because there is a gain of time when you manage to get buses to a certain point, and then on these corridors you can put more buses going to the same location. But people there's so much use on just jumping on a bus and dropping off someplace else that there's a lot of resistance still, but we are always trying to move forward with that, and it's an ongoing process. We of course had fuel economy because we managed to optimize the lines and reduction of CO2 emissions as a consequence. And we still have this challenge because although there is a fair integration, we have subsidized from the state government to integrate metropolitan and city level lines, but the metropolitan lines haven't been optimized, so they still are crowding our provoking traffic because they haven't been optimized. So this is a challenge we still need to face. And in terms of in regards of COVID, again, we reduced travel time, therefore we reduced exposure time, and we with improvements, we've managed to monitor the agglomerations through the monitoring cameras. I thought of bringing this as another case because as we renovate, we are also installing video cameras and things like that to monitor the population. And finally, of course, the main thing we're trying to do is by prioritizing public transport is contribute to sustainable transport and to save lives. But we also want to give better quality of life to the people. And this is a survey we carry on annually, and 77.1% of the users, they believe the system has improved, and they believe that the system will continue to improve. So this is a good feedback that we've been bringing change and making public transport better and more efficient and more sustainable, and we keep getting the population satisfied. And that's it. That's my contact. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing your experiences. It was very interesting to hear about these cases from Fortaleza and how you dealt with them. And I think we all learned a lot. And I can see that a lot of questions have come up already. But I would encourage everyone, if you have any further questions, you can post them in the chat pane or the question pane, and we will give them to Mariana to answer. And yeah, so I would now hand over to my colleague Sophia, who has been monitoring the questions and clustering them. And yeah, let's see what questions you have asked.
Thank you, Leonie. So we had a lot of questions concerning the campaign and the communication strategy strategy and some more about the app and smart cards. So maybe we start with a question relating to your communication strategy in Fortaleza, Mariana. So Natalie asked, how are the costs for this campaign covered? Did they all come from local government?
Yes. We make a lot of campaigns like with health related matters, and there's some budget for that. And so the main thing wasn't maybe the numbers were too much for some contacts, but the main thing wasn't the general budget, but the percentage that was targeted. We managed to increase, but it was all local resources.
Okay, thank you. And there was another question related to COVID-19, of course, like in this special situation. Can you share with us what the communication strategy that you had before has been changed right now due to COVID?
Nowadays, communication-wise, we've been using a lot of social media to communicate the projects, the news as well. The city government and the state government are very much aligned doing broadcasting the news. We use our app as well, and so it actually has been reinforced, and especially for public transport, because of all the information of how risky it is. It was very important to communicate the actions we've done in fighting COVID. I didn't mention here, I should have mentioned, but we've done a lot of things. We've installed sinks in bus terminals for people to wash their hands. We have people controlling lines on the terminals or in busy bus stops or in BRT stations for the access of buses, but we still struggle with the control inside the buses because it's kind of like difficult to get people to wait for the next bus when they're in a hurry. So we can kind of like control the lines outside, but every now and then it's challenging to deal with the public in peak hours. But the buses are taking like every route, they are clean, they're sanitized, and so there were many things that were done. Also, we scaled the working hours of different sectors, like industry would start earlier, services would start later on in the morning, and sales somewhere in the middle. So the peak hours would be flattened. And all that was communicated through all channels we could, like the internet, TVs, radios. We have also a city TV and radio that plays in the terminals and in the buses, so people had access to that information through that. So it was very important. I guess like all these projects, in a way, they were all, and all the communication we've built, they were very important as channels during this time of COVID to inform the population.
Thank you. And with regard to that, there was also another question from Manisha, a very interesting one. What are your best practice examples, maybe how local media can be engaged with the government and its communication strategy effectively, since often local media is not supportive maybe of city councils or something like that?
Yeah, we have, I'll say it's a clever strategy. The city hall data, this administration data at the beginning of the administration, and it's a bit of a decision of a leader, but one thing that helped was that every office, like the health office, the public services office where I come from, or where I work, the education office, every one of them had a communication department with at least one communicator and some interns. And this communicator, like this coordinator, sorry, usually was someone from the local media that was hired to do this service for the city. And so they already had some network built to communicate. And then it was this of active generating data. Like, so we still do that nowadays. Oh, we're gonna launch a new share bike station. We write a social media, a press release, like some text, and we send it to all the channels we have of all newspapers, all TVs, like providing this. But as I said, it's very important to give the right narrative, like so those trainings, they were carried out by our partners, like international partners, but to train these journalists to know how to address the new, because if you come from a very car-centric context, which most of us do, they usually will talk about the driver, and so the person who is giving the interview, who's providing the news, needs to know how to target this, how to say, yeah, but we're talking about people here, saving people's life, and it's a long-term movement, but you can kind of start like this. Like, I think one thing was like providing the news and the data, using data, because nowadays there's a lot of things around, especially road safety, to inform people. So yes, this is what I'll have to share.
Thank you, Mariana. And then there were some questions a little bit with regard to really implementation side of communication strategy. So one was, how large is your communication team involved in all those activities that you shared with us? And maybe I add the second question also, how did you define that 30 days was effective for advertising before the interventions that you did?
I can't answer the question of how large is. We are big. The city hall has a lot of people, but there was, as I said, there was this department in the city hall that developed this kind of campaigns and things like that, but we managed to insert the sustainable mobility and road safety things within this department, like in this department. So there's that. And in every office, there is a communication department sector, as I said, with at least a coordinator, but sometimes more, depending on the size of the office. And that will be in touch with, like, really actively trying to make news happen, like to develop releases and things like that, to give to journalists. I guess also the partners, like, they would provide some kind of services and help. So it's a big team, but I guess one of the main things is having that inside your office, like having a active communication sector inside your office. And sorry, what was the second question, Sophia?
You said that you defined 30 days was effective, yeah, for advertising.
Well, it was actually ongoing, right? Because on the time, like, we started implementing dedicated bus lanes, they were in a row. So it was basically a long time to inform all the people that would drive by or live around that area. They'll have the intervention, the dedicated bus lanes. That varies in a way. So it was affected in the way of the results we basically didn't get complaints. That's the main thing. Like, when we're implementing projects, we always try to make people understand, so everybody will be on the side of the project. So I can't be precise on, like, I don't have the answer on why 30 days, but that was what was done.
Thank you. There were, like, we would move a little bit away from our topic of communication with the further questions. So feel free to say that this is not your main specialty or so. But, like, there were a lot of questions with regard to the app and the smart cards. So first, there was a question with the collection of cash removed, were there any trouble for those who could only pay in cash, or, like, how was the implementation of this card going?
Yeah, so we had this smart card already circulating, but only 10% of the people would use it. Of the public transport users would use it. The strategy was, we wouldn't replace the buses that had cash, that could be paid with cash. We would include more buses with smart card payment only. And so that was like, imagine if you only had, I don't know, 10 buses available on your line, passing by every, or 12, or passing by every hour, a couple of hours, I don't know, and you insert like double it, like put another 10. So we made it even better, the services. So we made it more attractive. That was the strategy to make people to move. But of course, there are people who are resistant, and we make it easier also to do a smart card. Like even the collectors, we use them as like their services, like to help people get their smart card. So we have many points in the city nowadays that you can go and get a smart card, so it's much easier. And for people who are still resistant to that, they still can buy a smart card, but it's not the same one. It's not the bilhete único, which has other benefits. They can buy with the driver, but that represent nowadays only 5%. So it's our fare is 360 reais, and they can buy a card for 5 reais, and they can they can commute for 2 hours, but they have 140 reais there left, and if they want it back, they need to return the card at the bus terminal. So we gave the option, but it's not so attractive as the smart card, the bilhete único. And one thing I forgot to mention on the bilhete único is has a benefit of our share bike systems. If you have a smart card, public transport smart card, you can get a share bike for free for the first hour. And you just go to the station, present your card on the machine, and you get a share bike for free. So that's a way of integrating with public transport with cycling as well. And just we did that like throughout the whole 2019. Like for 6 months, we would double the line with smart cards only. So it was very smooth. And also, again, because it was smooth, and we were kind of like, whenever someone would complain, oh, this bus only has only accept smart cards, and we said, yeah, but we didn't. We just added that. We didn't took away. And then with time, we started taking away. So it was very gradual, this change.
And also a technical question with adding to that, how were the fare from trips collected by the smart card distributed? How was it distributed between the bus operators?
So we had a concession here. The bus operators or the bus companies? The bus companies, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they are together in a union. We've held a concession bidding process here in Fortaleza a few years ago, and there are many. I'm not sure about the numbers, but there are many of them. And they have a union where they distribute. They have their organization how they distribute this. So it's very good to deal with them because they are very much organized, well organized in a union.
Thank you. And there was another question, also technical, from the technical side of the app and the smart cards. Why were the facial biometrics required? Because like there was the question, can't we get travel data from the use of the cards only? So why facial biometrics too?
Because we were afraid of fraud, like of people using smart cards like as if they were other people. So the technology of facial biometrics was possible, like at the time here when the smart card was implemented, and it's a safety matter of guaranteeing that the person using the smart card is that one. So it's another safety strategy, and so that's the reason.
Okay, thank you. There was one question related to sexual harassment, which we would like to ask you, since we are quite active with TUMI in women empowerment and transport. So the actions you took on sexual harassment cases, were they done in real time?
No, they weren't. Unfortunately, we're still trying to develop a protocol to act on time, real time. Nowadays, it's only, well, it can be reported on the time, the exact time that it's happening, but it's one stage of the whole program we're trying to implement. But the thing here is that we are a very sexist country, And it's always like when it comes to reporting sexual harassment, a word of one against the other. And what we've done with this button is like when the victim or might be the victim or someone who is present, both can report the case to the police. When you report the bus, the number of the bus and the time, we collected videos, so we have a proof of the sexual harassment, which is forwarded to the police. So that strengthens the report. So this is one stage we are, and we are also generating data. We hope that as we move forward, we'll know better, like which bus lines are the worst in this case, and develop strategies to fight this better. We already have data, like we do know that most of the sexual harassment cases happen inside buses, for instance. But it's something we really want to develop is a protocol to act on time. But unfortunately, we're not there yet.
Thank you very much. I think those were some great questions. Thanks, Sophia, for taking over here. And thank you, Mariana, for all these interesting answers you gave us. So we are perfectly on time. We're now coming to an end of the session. Again, thanks to Mariana for giving your input and being able to answer all this broad range of questions. Thanks to the participants for joining in and asking interesting questions. And I wish you all a great day, a great evening, wherever you are. And we hope to see you in tomorrow's evening lecture as well. Thank you.